Right people, welcome back. This one is Team Selection. If you watched my video the other day, you'll have seen my initial draft. This is a little update on that. A few players have changed. I'm feeling quite good about this one. I doubt there'll be many changes before now on the deadline, but I'll talk you through the positions that I'm not 100% on when I go through it. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing you'll see is that this team has 0.5 million in the bank. That isn't for any specific reason. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to the midfield, as there's a couple of options that I'm looking at. But yeah, not for any particular transfer or anything like that. But there has been a change in goal since the other day. So I've got Henderson in goal instead of Flecken, who was in my team the other day. This one isn't set in stone by any means. It will be Henderson or Flecken. But I'm just not sure which one it will be yet. Henderson seems to be more kind of nailed on now than he was before. I think Johnston might even be leaving Palace. So yeah, pretty set on the fact that Henderson will be Palace's number one. Palace defence is better than Brentford, and I don't particularly want to lock in an early wildcard or anything like that. I could potentially wildcard in game week 6. I do want to leave that option open, but I don't want to kind of pigeonhole myself into definitely wildcarding in game week 6. And long term, Henderson and Palace are much better than Flecken and Brentford. On the bench, I've got Valdemarson. I'm not really sure who that 4 million goalkeeper will be. It will just be whoever isn't too highly owned and looks to have potentially a look at starting at some point during the season, or I may just go on the double up with Palace, with Matthews, if those two are looking like number 1 and 2, so that I've always got a keeper. But that does kind of make it so that I can't triple up on Palace at any point, which I might want to leave open. So yeah, bench goalkeeper doesn't really matter though. It will be Henderson or Flecken as my starting keeper. Okay, up next we've got the defenders. So my starting 3 for game week 1 will be Trent Alexander-Arnold, Pedro Porro and Barco from Brighton. Then I've got Konsa and Robinson on the bench. Now, Porro and Trent are more about the fact that they're incredibly attacking and Liverpool's fixtures are brilliant. Spurs fixtures are good for the first 2, so I want to get in on that. Barco has a pretty good fixture in game week 1 as well, but the reason for the Barco, Konsa, Robinson triple up / rotation is I looked at game weeks 1 to 5, and obviously I'll need to play at least one of them every week. So I looked at the rotations between the 3 of them and they work incredibly well. So I'll actually go into that in more detail now. Okay, so I will try to explain this as best as possible. The reason I'm looking at game weeks 1 to 5, as you can see on screen, is that I will potentially be wildcarding in game week 6. And even if I don't wildcard in game week 6, I will be making changes. I'll have hopefully rolled quite a few transfers by that point. So even if I don't wildcard, I will be making some changes in that week. Well, I'm looking to anyway, that's the plan. Whether it follows through or not, we'll see, but that's the plan. Arsenal's fixtures get very good from game week 6, so I'll definitely want an Arsenal defender. So yeah, for now, I was just planning game weeks 1 to 5. As you can see in the left-hand column, I've got Trent, and I want to play him every single week, so that's not a problem. I also then definitely want Porro. So as you can see, I play Porro game week 1, I play Porro game week 2, fixtures are great. I play Porro game week 5, another good fixture. Another player I wasn't going to go without was Konsa, as from game week 3, Konsa's fixtures get brilliant. So you can see game week 3, game week 4, game week 5 in the right hand column, I play Konsa in all of them. Another player that was definitely locked in my team is Barco, unless it looks like he's not going to start, but at the moment it does. And Barco's good for game week 1, and Barco's good for game week 4, you can see there. So I planned out when I'd play each of them. So game week 1, I play Trent, Porro, Barco, didn't need anyone. Game week 5, I play Trent, Porro, Konza. Didn't need to look for anyone then. Game week 4, Trent, Barco, Konza. Again, didn't need a fifth defender then. The weeks that I needed a fifth defender was game weeks 2 and game weeks 3. As you can see, Robinson plays Leicester at home in game week 2 and Ipswich away in game week 3. So that's about as good as it gets fixtures wise, 2 promoted teams. So given that I only needed that player for game week 2 and game week 3, it made sense that Robinson was the player that filled in there. Okay, right, I hope that rant on the defender rotation makes sense. So onto the midfield. The midfield 5 hasn't actually changed since the draft the other day. So I've got Saka, Bruno Fernandes, Nkunku, Eze, and then Sangare on the bench as the 4.5 million midfielder option. That 4.5 million bench midfielder could be anyone. I don't plan to ever use them or play them, so could be Winks, could be Bergvall, doesn't really matter too much. The thing I was talking about earlier, where I've got 0.5 million in the bank, one way I was thinking about using that was to upgrade Sangare to a 5 million midfielder. Originally, I was looking at Oscar Bob for the first few fixtures. It seems that he has picked up an injury in training. There's multiple sources stating that he's broken his leg. Some of them quite credible as well. So we will have to wait for Pep to potentially confirm that in the press conference. But for now, I think Bob is potentially one to avoid, which is quite annoying. But also there's Amad Diallo. I'm not that big on Diallo's expected minutes going forward. I think he's quite likely to start game week 1, but after that, I'm not so sure. Another option at 5 million is Morgan Rogers of Aston Villa. He's played a lot of pre-season minutes. He did also play towards the end of the season for Aston Villa. But yeah, he's been getting some good pre-season minutes now. I think he will definitely start game week 1. But again, he's another one who I'm not sure on his long-term minutes, so I'm not 100% on it. If I were to go for Morgan Rogers, then he probably would start, and when we get onto the attackers next, I'll talk about who will probably be benched. Okay, onto the forwards now, and nothing's changed since my video the other day. I've still got Haaland, I've still got Isak, and I've got João Pedro. Now, in terms of how nailed these guys are in my team, Haaland's not going anywhere, Isak's not going anywhere, and I don't think João Pedro is going to go anywhere either. Now, if I decide to go with the 5 million midfielder instead of Sangare, João Pedro is probably the one that's going to drop to the bench. It could be Nkunku, as the Man City fixture in game week 1 isn't great, but we're not 100% sure on whether João Pedro is going to start in game week 1. So if I can play that 5 million midfielder instead of João Pedro, then that takes away that risk quite nicely. If not, then I'm probably happy to start João Pedro. I will keep an eye out to see if there's any kind of rumours or murmurs about whether João Pedro is likely to start. But yeah, that could take that risk away quite nicely. Now, in terms of captaincy, at the moment, I'm on Isak. I love the Southampton at home fixture. He's had a full pre-season. Newcastle were looking good. The other options are Saka, although I am slightly worried that he might get taken off early. I think he definitely starts because he has come back from pre-season now. But I am slightly worried about him coming off early as he hasn't had a full pre-season. Obviously, the other option's Haaland, but I think I will likely go with Isak. So that brings us to the end of my team selection video. Like I say, most of those spots are pretty locked in now. There's just 2 or 3 decisions that I need to make before the deadline. If you've got any questions on anything, then let me know in the comments and make sure you subscribe. That really helps. And I will see you in the next one.